And showtime, ladies and gentlemen, maybe not as good for you as another session on the Peloton, but a whole lot easier. Welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup, a look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am one of your co-hosts on this program as well. I am joined this week, as every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing this week?
Trying to stay positive, Rich. Trying to stay positive through all the craziness that's going on. So it's we'll talk about that in a minute here. But it's just important for us to stay positive and know that we're going to get through all of this craziness. But this week has been especially challenging for a lot of folks.
It certainly has been. It certainly has been a lot, and on top of some other difficult things, obviously, that have been happening on the world, there are some very difficult, painful but necessary, important conversations going on right now. And so it's been a trying week for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. You know what, though? Our story of the week is going to help everybody think positive, I believe, a little bit, because we're going to say happy birthday to one of the best known peer group organizations in the industry out there. And to be honest, I didn't realize that this was a big anniversary year for the entity that is today called IT Nation Evolve. It's part of ConnectWise. It is better known, I think, still to a lot of people as HTG Peer Groups. And HTG Peer Groups was born 20 years ago this year, give or take just a few months, in fact, in the kitchen around the table of Arlen Sorensen, very well-known figure in the channel. 20 years ago, he had this very specific issue, actually, that came up. He had staffed up his company. I think he hired 10 people, anticipating a lot of business around Y2K. Didn't happen. Now, all of a sudden, he's got a bunch of people. He doesn't know what to do about them. Does he get rid of them? He figured, maybe what I should do is sit around with some other IT providers who are facing the same issue. Let's see if we can help each other out and figure out some things. 4 companies from Iowa, they get together in Arlen's kitchen. They share some insights. The conversation they started that night continues through word of mouth. Other people want to get in on it. Pretty soon there are 12 different channel companies in multiple states participating. Word of mouth continues to spread, and people around the country are literally lining up, getting on a wait list to try to get into this peer group. And eventually Arlen starts creating other peer groups, and dozens of them. Today, IT Nation Evolve is worldwide. There are about 70 different groups that they're doing. There are approximately 500 businesses that participate in those groups. There are groups specifically for sales leaders, for service leaders. There are groups for VARs who are trying to become MSPs. There are online-only groups. There are face-to-face only groups. I could go on. In 20 years, what started out as something very informal that Arlen really originally never foresaw as a business has turned into something pretty major. And, really, as we both know, Eric, the thing that has made this catch on is the general concept of partners helping partners. Partners who are on their own trying to figure things out, getting together, whether it's online or in a room with other partners, sharing insights, helping each other figure these things out. And in the case of HTG Peer Groups, the other thing that I think has been important is that Arlen has really emphasized from the start accountability. And so, he says, if you're out on your own, running your own business, the independence is great, but it often means that you do the things you like to do as opposed to the things that you need to do. Being in a peer group, being accountable to peers actually kind of keeps you doing the things that are maybe harder to do, but necessary as well. So, it's a great story, a story of organic growth, 20 years of organic growth, in fact, and 500 partners benefiting from this organization today. Arlen, at one point in my conversation with them, estimated there might be 1,000 companies out there that have participated at one time or another in these peer groups. And, it's a good thing.
Yep, and I'm sure of it. And, I count myself lucky to be part of that whole ecosystem. You mentioned, it's been 20 years. Happy birthday to a great organization, really following that go-giver philosophy, right? And that, you mentioned Arlen's ethos about execution. and accountability. You know, he'd always say, vision without execution is hallucination, right? I think he borrowed that from somebody, but it's really, really true. And I was lucky enough to be asked back in 2015, my MSP practice, we were all flown out to the Iowa, one of the Iowa peer group meetings, which was this original group of folks. And the peer group was only in, with these businesses in Iowa. And basically, my business partner and I presented, what managed services was to the group and took them through an entire day of exactly how we did what we did. And at the end of it, great story, Arlen asked us to kindly step out of the room. And so we did. And me and my business partner kind of looking at each other going, that's kind of odd. And then they call us back in like 2 minutes later and said, we've never done this before with an organization outside of Iowa, but we would like to invite you to join our peer group. Now, of course, you'll have to fly here 4 times a year to participate. But we saw it as a tremendous value, and it certainly did become a tremendous value for us. And so we were part of HTG1 for many, many years afterwards. And, I've got to say that spirit of helping and giving to others really was unique and still remains unique today in the channel.
I've spoken to a lot of peer group members who have a very emotional connection to the organization and the people that they've met through it, and who say very similar things to what you did. And, before we move on, the last kind of key thing to point out is now more than ever, having peers to turn to can be a really valuable thing. And I spoke with Arlen a little bit about how peer group members are helping other peer group members through the coronavirus pandemic right now. And everybody's figuring out a bunch of new stuff in real time, and doing that with others as opposed to entirely on your own really is a valuable thing.
Yep.
Let's take a look at your tip of the week here, which is also, timely. Basically, as we have pointed out, there are some difficult things happening in the world, and you've got some thoughts about that, Eric.
Holy cow, do I, Rich? I mean, it is, this last week with these, tragedies that have been occurring, with coronavirus, COVID-19, reopening, and then people getting, and then, more infections and more deaths. And then we have, police brutality going on. It can be overwhelming. I know I feel it even just expressing that sentiment. And so, my thoughts go out to everyone that's suffering during this time. But I think, I just want to focus the tip of the week here a little bit differently. And I want to encourage everyone to try to find your own little moment of Zen through all of this. Take a deep breath, take a break from the news, and, try to find joy in the things that you can, and try to remain positive. We all are going to get through it, together. I know. And I know that it's been a stretch here. People are kind of, losing it a little bit because of the quarantines have been going on so long. We've seen the protests and we've seen all this other stuff, and it can be overwhelming. I think I can just stack, 4 things of note this last week that, if I were somebody that allowed that stuff to affect me and not have more of a way to find a positive outlet to deal with it, it would really, really depress me. So I just want to say to everyone, find a way to find solace in something that you find some joy in. Spend some time there. Take a break from some of this stuff. Try to find more of that. We always talk about this work-life balance thing. I think that's kind of a little bit of a cliched saying, Rich, but I think it's more important now than ever, just because of this perfect storm of bad things that are happening.
Yeah, and I think we are talking here really just about a little balance. The idea isn't, to put your head in the sand. This is not a good time to put your head in the sand, obviously, for any number of reasons. And the issues that are being raised across the country right now, this is a discussion that is overdue. And so I don't think either one of us is suggesting that you should tune it out by any means. But finding those moments, as you said, restoring a little bit of balance, because you're absolutely right, it can be overwhelming at times, all that's going on right now. And I do think it makes good sense to make some time for yourself, basically to take a little break, and really just sort of prepare yourself to keep on going. I couldn't agree more with you. We are going to get through with this. We're going to wind up in a better place because of all of this that's going on, from technology and the industry and our customers and our society and our country. I really believe that, but it's going to be a difficult journey, and you really do need to kind of pace yourself a little bit, help yourself get through that, and taking a little break. If you're into meditation, if you're into yoga, now's a great time to make some time for that. If you don't do either one of those, maybe check it out. You really do need to be looking for ways to give yourself a little bit of relief.
Very well said, Rich.
Well, you know what? I've got a very small suggestion. We've got time for just one more story this week. And here's just a little something you can take a quick break with that might bring a smile to your face. Now, this comes to us from an amusement park in the Netherlands. They are closed, obviously, for social distancing reasons. But rather than just sort of let cobwebs and dust collect there, they've been kind of looking around for opportunities to share the fun online, basically, that people would normally be having in person. And they've come up with some interesting ideas. They've staged a giant rubber ducky race on a water attraction that they've got there. They've been hurling whipped cream cakes off the Space Shot ride. They did something involving plastic water-filled dummies on a roller coaster. And while they were at it with roller coasters, they took their brand new coaster, which is called the Untamed ride, and they put 22 giant teddy bears on it and let them ride this roller coaster. Now, this is a visual thing, people. I wish I could show it to you, and we'll put a link out there with this episode of the show so that you can follow it. If you got a couple of minutes, you want something that, for strange reasons, inexplicably, is just guaranteed to put a smile on your face, go watch 22 giant teddy bears ride a roller coaster. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty wild watching them actually, react to all the G forces and stuff. It's almost as if they are alive and having a good time. And I think that's probably, a good place to start with, adding, putting a smile to your face, as we were talking about today.
Absolutely agreed. Well, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. If you like the show, you want to take a look at some past episodes you may have missed, you want to keep up with the new ones as they come along, what you want to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe to that. Make sure you click the little bell icon if you want to get notified when a new episode goes up. To read more about the 20th anniversary of IT Nation Evolve and HTG Peer Groups, to read more about what's happening in the industry, get great business growth advice, please go to channelpronetwork.com every day. We have got awesome new content for you going up there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, your destination should be ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, thank you, folks, so much for joining us this week on the show. We will be back again next week with another episode. Until then, please, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.